During dinner, they called me destitute until my incredible watch revealed a hidden legacy. Jessica sat at the edge of her family's lavish dinner table, her breath hitching as her affluent relatives raised their glasses, laughing about extravagant vacations and five-star meals. The shimmering chandelier overhead felt blinding, and she squirmed under its weight. Just days before Christmas, each clink of wine glasses rang with a bitter sting against her heart. She was the nurse, the caregiver for her elderly parents, striving for a little dignity among the privileged in her quaint American town. As her cousin gushed over his latest venture in the luxury housing market, words like destitute and poor were tossed around carelessly. The onslaught made her feel small, invisible. She hugged her arms tight against her body, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. With every sentence, wealth and prestige suffocated her spirit. It wasn't just their words, it was the looks, the subtle smirks that suggested her sacrifice meant nothing. Longing for respite, she slipped into the dimly lit dining room corner, clutching a prayer for strength. Caught between heartfelt care for her parents and the disdain of her relations, she was a punchline in their spotlight, and it gutted her. How had her life come to encase so much pressure, yet so little validation? The burden of overflowing medical bills gnawed at her, mingling with the bitter taste of alienation. She hesitated against the wall, feeling her world tilt upside down with every mocking syllable. Then something caught her eye. A dusty vintage watch resting in an unassuming family heirloom box on a nearby shelf. Jessica reached for it, intrigued. As she cleared the layers of dust, memories of her late grandfather flooded back, his hearty laughter and wise words, and her quiet admiration for the man she never truly knew. A flicker of pride sparked within her as she admired the intricate design. She clasped the watch lightly, uncovering something extraordinary beneath the surface. A hidden blueprint nestled in its casing. It was a design for a medical device, one that could provide affordable health care for the underprivileged. Jessica's heart raced. Visions of her grandfather's genius flooded her. Euphoria, tinged with confusion, battled in her chest. Here was a gift, a legacy she never anticipated, all while she wrestled with her own frail sense of worth. The tension bubbled within her. Should she honor her family's legacy of integrity and dedication, or seize this opportunity to uplift her community and prove herself beyond their mockery? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. She took a deep breath, weighing the potential impact against the fear of her relatives' relentless judgment. What if this idea could change the landscape of healthcare? But would they ridicule her more if she dared try? The ghosts of their dismissive laughter loomed over her, pressing her down as she felt the weight of a nurse's paycheck, bundled with her parents' ever-growing medical expenses. It stung. What if she failed? What if she succeeded and still remained their subject of derision? Tension constricted around her heart as the clock ticked relentlessly. She had to make a choice. Reveal her discovery, reveling in the possibility of standing for something greater, or recoil in the shadows, allowing the taunts of despondency to echo through her efforts. Time ran out, and Jessica hovered at the brink, her ancestors' legacies whispering against her skin, the culmination of her passions echoing in her mind. Just as she steadied her breath to speak, doubt crept in. Would her voice shatter or uplift the quiet moments of familial expectations? The air thickened with unanswered questions as she caught her relatives' unreadable expressions in a periphery. Every emotion coiled tightly, and Jessica knew this was just the beginning. Jessica's heart thundered as she clutched the watch closer, letting the weight of its design ground her in the tumultuous sea of her relatives' laughter. The ornate engraving on the back seemed to shimmer, whispering potential beneath the surface. This blueprint was more than just a piece of paper. It was a lifeline that could elevate her from the shadows of scorn. It was time, she realized, to confront her fear of inadequacy, to transform what seemed like a shameful burden into a powerful opportunity. As she returned to the table, all eyes turned toward her, curiosity mixed with a hint of skepticism. Jessica swallowed hard, her throat dry, and lifted the watch above her head. At that moment, the clinking of glasses ceased, fading into a weighted silence. "This belonged to my grandfather," she began, her voice just above a whisper, "and it contains a design for a medical device." The collective gaze sharpened, lines of surprise etched into the faces surrounding her. "Medical device?" her cousin chuckled incredulously. "What are you even talking about? You, a nurse, suddenly inventing something? Sounds far-fetched." Heat surged through her cheeks as his laughter echoed, but it ignited a fire within her. "This isn't a joke," she asserted, regaining her composure. The time for timidness was over. She felt the ancestral pride surge through her, compelling her to speak with authority. "It's a blueprint for a device that could provide affordable health care for people who need it most. Our grandfather dedicated his life to helping others, and I want to continue that legacy." Jessica's voice wasn't just a plea, it resonated with passion and purpose. The table shifted. Some faces softened, while others remained skeptical. The tension twisted like a coil, and in that moment, the power of her revelation hung thick in the air. "A device?" her aunt asked, skepticism softening into curiosity. "Do you think it can truly help people?" "I do," Jessica replied firmly, feeling her resolve harden. "I've spent years working with patients who cannot afford treatments. This could change everything." The familiarity of her experiences fueled her declaration, and with every word, she felt an inch closer to defining her worth. Yet shadows loomed still. What if she couldn't bring her vision to life? Or worse, what if she failed and gave her family more reason to dismiss her? The haunting laughter echoed faintly, but she pushed it aside, plunging deeper into her conviction. "I plan to take this blueprint and refine it. I'll reach out to professionals who can help turn this into reality," she continued, a flicker of determination igniting in her chest. "I refuse to let fear dictate my future anymore. This could be my contribution, something to give back to the community, to prove my worth." An uneasy murmur rippled through the room as the relatives exchanged glances. Some appeared skeptical, while others seemed stirred by her words. Jessica knew this was not an easy path ahead. Each conviction she claimed would come with a battle against stubborn traditions and low expectations. The impulse to retreat to comfort loomed dangerously close. But with that thought, an unexpected clarity settled in. She realized she wasn't just fighting for recognition. She was advocating for the vulnerable, standing as a voice for those who felt unseen. A sense of responsibility took root within her, intertwining with her personal desires. Failure wasn't an option anymore. As the conversations resumed their typical banter, feigned nonchalance overshadowing genuine interest, Jessica felt a shift within herself. The watch's weight against her palm reminded her of all that was at stake. It wasn't just a legacy, it was a calling. With newfound resolve, she decided to step away from the table, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon of possibility. Leaving the room felt liberating. As the hum of her relatives faded, she turned toward her future, knowing she needed to find experts who could help refine her grandfather's design. Little did she know that the hurdles ahead would present unexpected challenges and reveal deeper truths about herself, truths that would stretch her limits. The path was laid out before her, but each step would require her to confront her inner demons, both past and present. And as she took that first step toward reclaiming her destiny, an unfamiliar feeling settled around her, a blend of anticipation and trepidation. She was ready to face the unknown, even if it meant confronting the very family that had cast her into the shadows. The time had come to face not only the world, but also herself. As she pondered her next move, a question lodged in her mind. Could she truly embrace the legacy left behind, or would her insecurities once again pull her back into obscurity? The cafe's ambience felt alive with promise as Jessica pushed open the door, the bell above jingling gently. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the wooden tables scattered with meticulous care. It felt like a different world from the familial dinner she had just escaped. This was a space buzzing with innovation, a realm where ideas sparked like fireworks, and uncertainty was camouflaged among the caffeine-fueled determination. She inhaled deeply, letting the rich aroma of coffee wash over her. This was where she needed to be, surrounded by fellow dreamers and creators. The thrill of stepping into the unknown encouraged her to secure a seat at the far corner, her laptop open and eager for input. She needed a plan, a course of action to transform her grandfather's blueprint into something tangible. But as the daylight seeped in, so did the gnawing doubts. Could she truly make an impact? The laughter of her relatives still echoed in the back of her mind, a reminder of the weight of their expectations and the sarcasm that punctured her resolve. Jessica shook her head in an attempt to dispel the negativity and focus on what mattered. With her grandfather's design displayed on screen, the intricate sketches stared back at her, demanding attention. Her years of experience in the medical field danced through her mind. She had witnessed firsthand the struggles of her patients, their stories deeply etched into her heart. This blueprint wasn't solely about invention, it was a lifeline for them. She began to map out her strategy, research professionals in the field, attend medical technology conferences, explore potential partnerships. Each step formulated a pathway toward realizing her vision. Yet a daunting realization hit her. She would have to confront her lack of credentials, her inexperience in the realm of innovation. Jessica grabbed her phone, scrolling through contacts for people who might help her. As she tapped a message to an old college friend now working in a medical startup, a bead of sweat trickled down her spine. Networking was not her strong suit. What if they dismissed her? What if she stumbled over her words or conducted herself inadequately? Each notion of inadequacy waged a battle in her mind, ripping at her resolve. Was it worth risking yet another potential judgment? But then, with each whispered fear, she recalled her purpose, her passion. The motivations from which she drew strength ignited a flame. She was not merely pursuing validation. She wanted to emerge as a voice for those trapped in the systems of inequality. With a quick deftness, she hit send, her heart racing as she felt the immediacy of vulnerability. The act stirred something deep within her, an acknowledgement of courage she had not fully embraced before. As she settled further into her focus, her thoughts circled back to her past failures, which had always overshadowed her accomplishments. Jessica gathered herself. It was time to embody the legacy she desired to fulfill. If her grandfather could dedicate his life to helping his community, surely she could. Muster the strength to bring his vision to fruition. The scared little girl hiding in her shadows would need to be silenced. The device was her way of speaking up for herself and for those she had taken care of. Hours passed, the sunlight waning, and the cafe began to empty. With determination, she ventured to reach out for mentors, crafting her emails with precision, articulating her vision clearly. The weight lifted, and her confidence grew. She was crafting her narrative, rewriting the storyline. But in the back of her mind surfed whispers of doubt. Who would truly invest in an unknown nurse with a fledgling dream? As she wrapped up the final email, a message pinged on her phone, a response from her friend. She opened it, brow furrowing at the unexpected block of text that promised more than she anticipated. What she would discover next could either be the thread to her rising arc or yet another circle closing around her ambitions. Was she ready to step into the light, facing potential rejection once more? Or was she finally prepared to embrace her newfound identity? The cafe door swung slightly, as though urging her toward the uncertainty of her next step. Would the next meeting bolster her aspirations, or would it push her back into the obscurity she sought to escape? Jessica stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen as she processed the response from her friend. The words swirled in front of her, merging into a single wave of exhilaration and trepidation. A connection, an opportunity. It was a lifeline tossed into the ocean of uncertainty. Hey, Jessica, great to hear from you. I'd love to help you with your project. We have a networking event next week that might be perfect for you. Lots of folks from the startup world will be there. Let's catch up beforehand. The rays of the setting sun painted the cafe in hues of gold, but Jessica felt as though the weight of the world hung around her shoulders. Networking events loomed like mountainous giants, their imposing figures filled with a populace of successful, knowledgeable people, exactly the kind of company she was not accustomed to. Her anxiety flared again, harsh and relentless. What could she possibly contribute? She hardly belonged among those apparent giants of industry. Yet there was a flicker of determination amidst the swirling doubts. This burgeoning idea was not merely a product of her imagination. It was illuminated by the profound needs of real people, struggling with experiences she had witnessed every day as a nurse. That thought had ignited her resolve. She couldn't retreat now, not when she felt the possibility of an actual opportunity was within reach. With clenched teeth, she opened her laptop anew. She had a week to prepare, and a week was all she needed to equip herself with strategies that would bolster her confidence. She began by outlining potential pitches for her idea, focusing on her unique insights into patient needs. Real-life stories about her patients flourished now in her mind as she transcribed their journeys into compelling narratives. Each tale became a pillar of her mission, establishing the emotional backdrop for her innovation. Digging deeper, she turned to research. Key statistics, market demands, and technological trends spilled across her screen, transforming her naivety into a savvy knowledge base. Each nugget of information brought clarity, illuminating paths she had never considered and eliminating the dimness of insecurity. As she forced herself into this new rhythm, each word typed was a silent promise to those who had confided in her. It resonated like a heartbeat. But even as her preparation blossomed, a familiar, nagging voice whispered her fears, insidious and loud. What if they question your credentials? What if your idea isn't good enough? The questions coiled tightly in her chest. Yet she remembered her grandfather's tenacity and passion, and with every keystroke she began to peel away layers of that fear. 5 days remained. Jessica attended workshops, embraced tools that would sharpen her pitch, practiced speaking in front of her reflection with an intensity that made it feel like second nature. Conversations with her college friend turned to dialogues of possibility rather than doubt. Each call shared insights, tips, and the much-needed boost of encouragement that she truly craved. As the day of the event approached, Jessica stood at the crossroads of hope and dread. Her body felt like a coiled spring, teetering on the edge of something colossal. She was ready to face the unknown, or so she believed. But the night before the event was restless. Laying awake, she confronted a harrowing thought. She wasn't just battling the anticipated judgment of industry professionals. She was wrestling with the fear buried deep within, the notion that she could walk away from all this and retreat into the safety of routine nursing, leaving behind the lifeline she had fought to forge. That thought clung to her, stubborn and sullen. It planted seeds of doubt about her commitment to her cause. What would she become if this opportunity slipped from her fingers? As dawn broke, she rose with shaky resolve. This wasn't just about her. It was about reshaping her identity, redefining her role from caregiver to innovator. Yet, the anticipation soared, mingling with a serpentine thread of dread that could undo all her careful preparation. The event was imminent, one that would either establish her newfound identity or leave her questioning her very essence. Would she rise against the tide of fear and uncertainty, or would the weight of judgment drag her under? It was time for her to step out, face the crowd, and confront whatever consequences awaited her. But the night's haunting question lingered. Would she emerge bolstered in her quest, or fade back into the shadows of self-doubt, forever wondering what could have been? The anxious fluttering in Jessica's stomach morphed overnight into a tight knot as morning arrived. Every tick of the clock echoed in her mind. Hammering thoughts of imperfection and inadequacy, she glanced at herself in the mirror. Her reflection was a blend of determination and fear. The familiar garb of scrubs had been replaced by a tailored blazer, a superficial armor for the professional battlefield she was preparing to enter. She glanced at her notes again, poring over the intricate threads that wove her patient's struggles into her innovation's fabric. Yet, amidst the overarching excitement for the possibilities, a shadow of doubt lingered. Would her passion for their experiences resonate in front of an audience that judged success by metrics she barely understood? An inexplicable urge to retreat flooded through her as she stepped outside. The world felt vast and unwelcoming. Yet, for every step back into the cocoon of nursing, an equal force pushed her forward into the unknown. She was propelled by a commitment to her mission, respecting those vulnerable lives that depended on the change she dreamed of. Jessica's college friend, Hannah, greeted her outside the venue with a warm embrace. "You look fabulous. Remember, it's about your vision." The words were a gentle reminder that she was not alone on this journey. As they moved through the throngs of eager entrepreneurs and seasoned professionals, Jessica felt a flicker of fire igniting. This event was a gateway to possibilities beyond her understanding. As they approached the entrance, the atmosphere thickened with an energy that buzzed around them, sparking moments of intrigue and nervous anticipation. Jessica's heartbeat quickened, but as if sensing her internal turmoil, Hannah squeezed her hand firmly. "You've worked hard. Own your story." With her pulse racing, Jessica stepped across the threshold into a realm of bright lights and lively chatter. Presented with visuals of innovative products and technologies, she felt distinctly out of place for a moment. But her mission screamed louder than her doubts. It was time to connect, share, and build. She navigated the venue, taking careful mental notes of the conversations swirling around her. Each interaction brought lessons, insights, and rekindled her confidence. She quickly realized that the giants she had feared were often just as vulnerable, navigating the same pathways of innovation and life. Toward the back, a panel discussion began to unfold, captivating her attention. An experienced CEO shared a story of failure. His voice trembled lightly as he confessed the detrimental effects of pursuing perfection over authenticity. In that moment, Jessica felt a shift. If success burgeons from vulnerability, maybe her own fears were not liabilities, but gateways to her power. When her turn arrived to pitch, she felt the need to shed her fears like an old skin. As she walked to the front, heart pounding, she imagined herself in that familiar cafe, concocting her ideas amidst the warmth of the setting sun. The perspective shift transformed her dread into passion. Every idea has a story embedded within it, and mine stems from the stories of my patients. Their struggles mirror the data we gather in healthcare, and together we can create something transformational. The words flowed like a river, each sentence crafted, tethered to the vulnerability that sparked her quest. However, as her pitch concluded, lingering skepticism echoed back from the audience. "What qualifications do you have? How do you expect to implement this in a saturated market?" The questions bombarded her with sharp edges, slicing through her burgeoning confidence. Yet, in that moment of exposure, something profound happened. She recalled the doctor's heartbreaking farewell to his patient and the squeeze of a trembling hand against her own. She realized she had a depth of understanding rooted not in business prowess, but in a powerful empathy that few could rival. Defensive frustration transformed into resolute clarity as she faced down the doubt. "I may not have years of business experience, but I possess first-hand insight into those who need change most. That's my advantage." Her voice was steadier than before, the conviction behind the words fueled by the very souls she aimed to serve. As she stepped away from the spotlight, the buzz of the crowd felt heavier. The rush of uncharted paths swirled around her like an unsettling storm. Had she forged a connection or merely opened a can of skepticism? Would her raw honesty pave a triumphant journey forward, or would it seal her fate in the whirlpool of self-doubt once more? The stakes felt heightened, and as she took a breath amidst the chaos, Jessica wondered anxiously, What awaited her in the aftermath of her bold leap? Jessica stepped away from the pulsating crowd, her mind a whirlwind of uncertainty. The faces surrounding her became a blur of ambition and skepticism. Had she truly resonated with her audience, or had she merely pushed them further from her vision? Pushing through a group of jovial innovators, she instinctively sought refuge in a quieter corner. Her heart still thumped in her chest, each beat a reminder of the vulnerability she had displayed. In a world that glorified polished pitches, her raw honesty felt like both a risk and a revelation. She leaned against a cool wall, drawing in calming breaths. The question kept echoing in her mind. Was emotional connection enough to bridge the gap between experience and viability? Across the room, Hannah waved energetically, beckoning her closer to a small cluster of attendees. "They want to hear from you, Jess," she chirped. Jessica hesitated. Her last confrontation with the audience had unsettled her. Were they truly interested, or was Hannah simply buoyed by optimism? "Just share your story," Hannah encouraged, sensing Jessica's unease. The encouragement felt like a lit fuse. Jess strode forward, every hesitant step conflicting with the urgency of her mission. It was a lesson learned from the panel. Authenticity had the power to forge connections that metrics could not. As she joined the group, a man with an inviting smile stepped forward. He introduced himself as Eric, a healthcare investor with a vested interest in innovative solutions. "Your pitch was powerful," he said warmly. "I appreciate the focus. I'd love to discuss it further." With that, a flicker of hope ignited within her. "Thank you. I think we're at a turning point in patient care, and the stories of their struggles are often overlooked." She let her words tumble out, riding the wave of newfound confidence. Eric nodded, his gaze focused. "I completely agree. In the quest for numbers, we often forget the human element that drives change. But tell me, how do you plan to differentiate your idea in such a saturated market?" Caught off guard by the directness of the question, Jessica paused. She had rehearsed responses for skeptical remarks, but Eric's tone was genuinely inquisitive. "It's about weaving narratives together with actionable data," she began, her voice gaining momentum. "The stories don't simply support the statistics, they inform actionable change." In that moment of articulation, she harnessed the relentless pursuit of her nursing background. She was not just selling an idea, she was advocating for a more compassionate healthcare system. Each word was laced with the urgency she felt for patients who needed representation beyond their charts. People crave connection. When they see how empathy drives innovation, they will want to support it. As Jessica spoke, the harried undercurrents of self-doubt gradually subsided, giving way to the firm conviction that had initially drawn her to this journey. The conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by the exchanges of ideas and mutual interest. With each passing moment, her anxiety transformed into palpable excitement. The spark of engagement buzzed like static electricity, awakening aspirations she had long suppressed. Yet, amidst the high points of the discussion, a nagging thought gnawed at the edges of Jessica's newfound confidence. It was one thing to articulate her vision, it was another to see it through. Every door that opened could just as easily close, and the competitive market felt like a labyrinth devoid of a clear exit. "Tell me," Eric interjected, bringing her back into focus. "What next steps do you envision? Talk to me about your strategy." His question loomed over her like a dormant storm cloud. Jessica realized that in her excitement to share, she had danced around the logistical realities. Well, she stammered, realizing she hadn't mapped out a concrete approach. The weight of uncertainty pressed upon her as her stomach churned again. The urgency of the moment added a new layer of pressure. Had she been too hasty in her engagement? Suddenly, she felt exposed, stripped of the facade of confidence she'd projected moments ago. "I think I need to refine my business plan," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I'll seek mentorship and possibly collaborate with seasoned professionals who understand the nuances of market strategies." Eric regarded her thoughtfully, then nodded. "That sounds like a solid start. The right guidance can be essential. Let's keep the conversation going. I believe in your vision." As they parted ways, Jessica pondered the dichotomy of her current experience. She was both exhilarated and burdened by the possibilities. The dialogue with Eric felt like a lifeline to her aspirations, yet she remained tethered to the hard truth of her inexperience. Emerging from the exchange, Jessica felt the weight of the day settling around her, urging her toward an essential truth. Could she cultivate the perspective needed to navigate not just the emotional landscape of healthcare, but also the unforgiving realm of business? With newfound determination coursing through her veins, she understood that achieving her dream would require more than just passion. It would demand strategic planning, resilience, and partnerships. As she reflected on her next steps, the figures milling around the venue morphed into shadows. Each represented a fragment of the future she now yearned to grasp. Drawing a deep breath, she steadied her thoughts, ready to chart a course that seamlessly blended empathy with pragmatism. The evening unfolded, deeper connections forming with every new conversation. Yet an undercurrent of urgency began to spiral within. She needed to face the challenges of execution with the same tenacity she had shown in the pitch. In the back of her mind, an urgent question simmered as she moved through the crowd. What sacrifices and strategies would she need to navigate this challenging terrain to bring her vision to life? Jessica found herself at a small cafe, the ambient noise of clinking cutlery and hushed conversations providing a stark contrast to her chaotic thoughts. She sat at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee that offered a comforting familiarity. Yet, as she glanced out the window, the world outside felt overwhelming, a swirling blend of opportunities shadowed by uncertainty. She focused on her notepad, the blank pages sprawling before her like an uncharted territory. Each line was a potential lifeline, a plan for her vision that had yet to be refined. The realization that she had sidestepped those vital details during her talk with Eric weighed heavily on her. What kind of professional was she if she couldn't articulate the next steps of her journey? Jessica's nursing background had honed her ability to think on her feet in critical situations. In the ICU, decisions had thrummed with urgency, lives depended on swift judgments and coordinated strategies. Yet here, in the realm of business, every heartbeat felt excruciatingly slow as she grappled with the unknown. What had been once a place of clarity now twisted into a haunting labyrinth of doubt. In that moment, she knew she had to confront the ebb and flow of her self-doubt head-on. She flipped to a fresh page, taking a deep breath as she began listing possible strategies for her idea. Collaborating with experienced sponsors, outlining actionable goals, examining competitions, each thought invigorated the conviction that flickered inside her. She was no longer merely defining her vision, she was shaping a reality. Yet the shadows of her previous anxieties loomed. What if her plans fell flat? What if she couldn't find a mentor willing to believe in her? Keenly aware of these doubts, she found herself reflecting on those early days in her nursing career. Season after season, she had stumbled and risen, blending theoretical knowledge with a fierce desire to make a difference. This moment, amid the clatter of plates and the aroma of coffee, felt eerily similar. Jessica scribbled furiously, mapping out a makeshift blueprint. Each point illuminated a different building block of her business. Market research, identifying target audiences, a potential outreach strategy using social media. The excitement came rushing back, pushing the shadows aside. She envisioned her idea as more than a business. It could be a movement. Suddenly, an image of Eric's encouraging nod flashed in her mind. Should she reach out to him again, to engage him further? The thought caused her heart to race, emotions colliding. Pursuing mentorship felt like a leap, a departure from her comfort zone. Yet, if she truly wanted to excel, she would need to embrace the unknown with the same fervor she had once reserved for her patients. At that moment, the cafe's door swung open, and in strode an older woman with an unmistakable air of authority. She carried herself with an elegance that resonated in every stride, her keen eyes scanning the room discerningly. Jessica couldn't help but stare as the woman approached her table, a complexity of intrigue swirling within her. "Excuse me, the woman greeted warmly, pulling Jessica from her thoughts. "I couldn't help but notice your fervent writing. It's not often I see such determination in a young entrepreneur." A rush of embarrassment tinged Jessica's cheeks. What if she couldn't live up to the expectation that accompanied such a compliment? "Thank you. I'm just trying to lay out my vision," she replied, struggling to convey the full weight of her aspirations. The woman's smile broadened. "I believe we could help each other. My name is Martha, and I specialize in connecting innovative ideas with the right resources. What's the essence of your vision?" With a deep breath, Jessica opened her heart and explained her concept, capturing the emotion intertwined with her mission. Each word poured from her, revealing the transformative power of compassion in healthcare. As she spoke, the thrill of connection rekindled the fire within her. Martha listened intently, nodding along as if placing bricks to build a foundation for their conversation. In that moment, Jessica felt a remarkable shift. The burdens she had carried began to lighten. She wasn't merely chasing a dream, she was crafting a legacy of hope. As Martha offered insights into the next steps Jessica might take and valuable connections she could leverage, a profound realization settled. She would face the challenges of her venture, not as a lone warrior, but as part of a community of visionaries. The stakes had never felt higher, and doubts still flickered like embers in her mind. Yet, amid the clinking of forks and murmurs of fellow patrons, Jessica's heart thumped with steely resolve. She was no longer just the nurse advocating for change. She was Jessica, the entrepreneur ready to revolutionize her world. The conversation veered toward potential challenges, and Martha paused, fixing Jessica with a probing gaze. "Tell me, how far are you willing to go to see your dream realized? What sacrifices could you make?" Jessica's stomach tightened. The question, laden with gravity, echoed in her mind. Clarity washed over her as she contemplated her willingness to navigate this transformative journey, and, for the first time, she sensed the true magnitude of her commitment to her vision. How far was she willing to go to turn her dreams into reality? Jessica's mind raced with the weight of Martha's question. Walking the fine line between ambition and apprehension, she recognized this was no mere hypothetical. It was a crossroads, a vital moment that demanded honesty with herself. Yet a pang of dread thrummed beneath her resolve. Sacrifice was a tricky concept, one that invited pain into the equation. What was she willing to endure to make her vision a reality? "Please," Martha said with an understanding smile that opened a door to vulnerability. "Don't shy away from this. Sacrifices can be anything, from time to comfort. We need to work through this together." As Jessica mulled over her response, her mind flitted back to the nights spent in the ICU, the energy drained from her body, yet still finding strength to push through. The hours of missed meals, lost sleep, and personal moments for the sake of her patients had forged resilience in her. This venture had a different kind of heartbeat, yet the stakes were similarly profound. What if it means working longer hours, losing touch with friends? She finally voiced, her voice steadier than she felt. "Precisely," Martha encouraged. "Every leap requires risk. Look at your world now. It seems daunting, perhaps uncomfortable. That means you're on the brink of something extraordinary." Jessica nodded, the flicker of a challenge igniting inside her. What if losing certain comforts could bring her closer to creating something impactful? What if it also means facing those who doubt me, the friends who think I'm crazy for leaving nursing, the family members who may not understand my path? The questions poured out, tinged with anxiety, but also with the raw energy of realization. Martha leaned in, her eyes twinkling with intrigue as she responded, "If you're not facing doubt, you might not be on the right path. Everything significant comes with skepticism. Use it as fuel, not a deterrent." Jessica felt a warmth expand from her core. A sense of belonging to this unexplored identity was blooming. She wasn't simply shifting careers. She was crafting a new narrative, one in which she could intertwine her compassion and commitment to health with her entrepreneurial spirit. "So, let's strategize," Martha suggested, guiding her focus back. "What gaps exist in the healthcare realm you wish to fill? How can you harness your nursing experience to create solutions?" A sense of clarity began to wash over Jessica, the outline of her vision sharpening in her mind. The gaps she identified while working had churned into ideas whirling around the chaos of healthcare access, patient empowerment, and emotional support systems. She began speaking with newfound conviction, illuminating the space between her vision and the current void in her experience. Imagine a platform that not only addresses patient needs, but nurtures connections between providers and communities, she suggested, enthusiasm rising with each word. Where health education meets accessibility, a digital space that breeds trust and innovation. Now that's a vision that can resonate, Martha affirmed, her eyes alight with possibility. But it goes deeper. Have you considered who your strongest allies might be? The individuals or organizations whose values align with yours. Jessica's excitement met a wall of reality. Allies? She'd spent years focused on singular patient interactions, not on broader collaborations. Who would want to partner with her? The familiar twinges of self-doubt crept back. What made her worthy of such connections? Yet within that uncertainty lay a kernel of her new purpose. She would identify supporters, inspire trust, and shower her audience with the same dedication she'd shown her patients. "What's holding you back?" Martha asked gently, her voice carving through Jessica's introspection. It was simple yet complex, fear of rejection, a lifetime habit of self-doubt, but a steely determination began to anchor in her spirit, each answer coalescing into conviction. "I need to put myself out there," Jessica breathed, a quiet ferocity blossoming, threading through her resolve. "I'll reach out to former colleagues, talk to innovators in healthcare, and connect on social media. I will not let noise deter my focus, not anymore." Martha smiled, the pride radiating like a beacon. "That's the spirit. Remember, you have the resource of your experience to guide you. Lean into it." As Jessica absorbed the truth of those words, her internal landscape transformed. The world outside the cafe window shifted from overwhelming chaos to an expanse of potential she could navigate. With clarity and a burgeoning plan, she felt the thrill of purpose reinvigorate her. And yet, amidst the clarity that surrounded her burgeoning vision, Jessica couldn't shake her nagging doubts. How would she confront those who voiced skepticism? With her heart racing, she recognized the next step would demand more than just connecting with allies. It would require a confrontation with her inner critic, the toughest opponent she faced. How would she silence that voice and step boldly into her new identity? The evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across Jessica's living room as she prepared to face her biggest challenge yet, a dinner with her closest friends. Each of them had watched her thrive as a nurse, yet now she felt vulnerable, unsteady on the precipice of her career shift. Would they understand her need to transition into the daunting realm of healthcare innovation? A tight knot of anxiety twisted in her stomach as she set the table, alternating between the domestic choreography and self-reflective queries. Amidst the clinking of plates and the soft laughter of her friends, Jessica's mind raced. Their prior conversations danced in her memory, commendations on her nursing skills, and whispers of doubt regarding her plan to leave the familiar world of medicine. She glanced at her array of friends, those who had always believed in her abilities, who were now likely to question her ambition. Each friendly face could also be a potential threat to her burgeoning resolve. As her friends arrived and the laughter mingled with aromas from the kitchen, Jessica felt a war inside her, a fight between the steady heartbeat of her ambition and the nagging voice of self-doubt echoing in the corners of her mind. "What are you working on now?" Sarah, an old colleague, asked as they settled into their seats around the dinner table. "You always had such a steady hand for patient care. Are you sure about this shift?" Jessica's pulse quickened. Did they see her as a lost cause, choosing an uncertain path? She took a deep breath, and a flicker of her earlier resolve ignited within her. "I've been thinking a lot about healthcare access and how much we can improve patient-provider connections," she replied, her voice stronger than she expected. "And you think you can do that?" Tom, another longtime friend, interjected with a critical eyebrow raised. "You're going to leave a stable job for what exactly?" Slicing through the light-hearted banter, the atmosphere grew thick. Jessica's heart raced as she confronted their skepticism head-on, knowing she needed to channel the steady current of belief she had built within herself over recent days. Yes, I believe I can, because I've seen what's missing. I understand patients' fears. I've lived through them in their darkest moments. It's not just about medical care, it's about compassion and accessibility. The table fell silent. Jessica could almost hear the gears in their minds turning, questioning her resolve. Doubt nibbled at her confidence like an insistent mouse. She had always been the strong one, the caregiver. They didn't know how uncertain she felt now. "Let's say you'd do this," Sarah finally spoke, a cautious edge to her voice. "What if it fails? Could you handle that kind of setback?" The words struck like ice water. Suddenly, Jessica confronted a truth far deeper than simply facing her friend's doubt. It wasn't just about external pressure. It was the fear of disappointing herself, the quicksand of failure that could swallow her whole. But should she let that fear dictate her choices? Courage tugged at the edges of her conscience. "I'd rather try and fail than wonder what if for the rest of my life," she replied, her voice now unwavering, even fierce. "Failure is part of the process. With every setback, I gain knowledge on what the path truly looks like, and knowledge is invaluable." Empowerment washed over her at the realization that she was articulating not only her ambition, but her new identity. This moment became a turning point. She wasn't just trying to persuade them, she was asserting her newfound confidence. The conversation shifted. They began to ask her more, curious about her ideas in healthcare technology. Jessica found herself explaining the gaps she had recognized and how her experience equipped her to address them. Their skepticism transformed into intrigue, and the questions morphed from criticism into constructive discussion. As dessert was served, Jessica felt the weight of worry lifting, replaced by newfound reinforcement. Maybe her friends could be allies in this venture after all. Yet, amid her blooming confidence, she still felt a gnawing question lurking beneath the surface. Would this new self be strong enough to withstand the inevitable external doubts of others, especially those closest to her? It dawned on her that realization alone wouldn't be enough. No, she would have to prepare for the critics beyond this cable, the ones waiting in the wings of her professional journey. The moment of truth was approaching, demanding her to not only confront her inner critic, but to consistently challenge the doubts dissipating around her. Was she ready for the battles ahead? Would she arm herself with the tools of resilience and belief? As she glanced at her reflection in the window, the question echoed louder than before. The fight to silence her inner critic was just beginning, and a deeper conflict awaited on the horizon. Would she embrace the challenge or retreat into the shadows of doubt once more? With each passing day after her enlightening dinner, Jessica's commitment to her vision solidified. No longer an echo of uncertainty dancing in the shadows, she stepped boldly into her new role as an innovator in healthcare. The networking event with Martha had sparked a fire within her, stoking the embers of her ambition into a blazing determination. She absorbed every lesson offered by seasoned professionals and honed her strategy, ready to transform her grandfather's blueprint into reality. Armed with concrete plans and strategic outreach, Jessica didn't just see a future, she shaped it. Her mornings began with invigorating research sessions, consuming knowledge that would elevate her concept. She scoured articles, attended webinars, and connected with leaders in medical technology. The experience in nursing was her greatest ally. Every patient interaction echoed in her mind, guiding her vision not just with data, but with heart. This was about more than numbers. Weeks turned into months, and with each email sent and every conversation arranged, she felt validation blossoming around her. Her experience was not a liability, but a significant asset. Each response she received from professionals willing to mentor or invest reinforced her stature as a knowledgeable player in this field. Jessica's first major breakthrough came when she was invited to present her idea at a local incubator. The event buzzed with eager entrepreneurs, but the sight of the crowd stirred the residual nerves that she had sworn to silence. Standing behind the podium, however, as she glanced at the sea of curious faces, a surreal calm washed over her. This was her moment. A hushed anticipation filled the room as she introduced her idea. Project, deftly weaving her expertise and personal narrative into a powerful tapestry that connected her audience to the importance of her mission. This isn't just about healthcare technology, it's about bridging the gap between what we know patients need and what the system delivers. It's about creating a compassionate platform for accessibility, she articulated, her voice vibrant and sure. What followed was a cascade of engagement. Heavy questions turned into a lively conversation as Jessica demonstrated both knowledge and resilience. The attendees were intrigued by her insights and commitment, ushering her into a community of encouragement rather than skepticism. Each question challenged her further, but with each response, she felt a profound sense of achievement swell within her. This was empowerment fused with recognition. After the presentation, a young investor approached her. "I loved your pitch, Jessica. Your personal connection to healthcare is compelling. We need more passion in this industry. Let's talk about potential collaborations." Just like that, a door swung open, solidifying her place in a landscape she once viewed with trepidation. As weeks progressed, she embraced her role as a burgeoning entrepreneur, carving out partnerships with professionals who admired her vision. The apprehension that had once clouded her aspirations diminished against the backdrop of her growing confidence. She learned to navigate the nuances of negotiations and stand firm in her beliefs. Feedback from her pilot sessions with patients echoed affirmations of necessity. People needed a voice in their care, and Jessica's dream was swiftly becoming a reality. Recognition flowed to her from professional mentors. Awards and accolades began to accumulate, not just for her invention, but for her dedication to the real-life stories she aimed to uplift. Finally, her hard work culminated in the first successful beta test of her device. As she stood in the lab, examining the tangible outcome of her relentless pursuit, a profound satisfaction washed over her, a clarity that she had conquered her fears, transforming them into a stepping stone toward her resurrection from invisibility. She had proven not just to her family, friends, and peers, but most importantly to herself, that she was not defined by their perceptions. She was a creator, a visionary. As she fastened the very watch that had unveiled her grandfather's design around her wrist, the weight of its legacy mingled with a newfound lightness in her heart. In that moment, she fully recognized a truth she had long sought. Achievement was forged through tenacity, commitment, and an unwavering belief in one's vision. Jessica stepped into the light of her accomplishments, gazing beyond the horizon with resolute confidence. The path still twisted ahead, but with purpose lighting her way, she embraced the journey of trailblazing her legacy. And for the first time, she finally felt at home within herself. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.